So everybody, we just wanted to say welcome to Transparency Camp. This is going to be our biggest Transparency Camp yet, and we are looking forward to working with all of you to make it our best Transparency Camp yet. My name is Nicole Arrow. I'm the organizing director at the Sunlight Foundation.
And I'm Lauren Ellen McCann. Lauren Ellen, one word, really long, and I'm an organizer with Sunlight.
I also used to be a middle school teacher, so I'm used to just yelling and not speaking at a normal tone into a microphone, so let me know if it's hard to hear me. That's usually funnier to people too. So we just wanted to walk through a couple of things. How many folks have ever been to a Transparency Camp before? So we got a lot of new folks in the room and a lot of returning folks. That's exciting. How many people have been to an unconference before? Great. So there's a lot of new folks here who haven't been to an unconference and who haven't been to a Transparency Camp. So if you have been here before, please take a few minutes and talk to the folks around you, and they're staring at the wall, which we'll explain later, and saying, why is everybody milling around this really big wall? And sort of help guide the new folks through the hoops. So this is an unconference, which basically means that you all set the agenda. We have set almost none of the agenda for this entire conference.
Except for lunch.
And this session and the closing session. So we're pretty excited about sharing these with you. We're going to hear a little bit from Ellen Miller, our wonderful executive director. And then we are going to have several of you who are doing really, really amazing things around the country speak about what you are doing through Ignite style or lightning style talks.
We also have a Flickr group set up, so we encourage you to share all your pictures. Flickr.com/group/tcamp2011. That's also up on our website, so that's pretty easy to find. Another thing to note while we're talking about being on the record, in another great tradition of the Ignite Conference, we have a great wiki that's set up that you'll be able to, when you're in a session, enter in the session notes, enter in the leader of that session. I encourage you to include some contact information so that after this conference you can follow up. If you weren't able to attend this conference, speaking to the live streaming camera, you can go through and see if you want to get in touch and talk further about that. We're orienting this conference so that we don't just have a conference. We should enjoy ourselves, we should have this conference, we should have a great time, but we should always be thinking about what we can take out of Transparency Camp, back to our communities, to what we do, and what we can do next from here. And so filling out that wiki is a first step to just building a list of resources.
And that actually is what we sent out a survey a few months ago asking what you all wanted out of this Transparency Camp, and that was one of the biggest responses that we heard was people wanted to move. We've spent the last few years building this really wonderful community around open government and transparency, and now we got to do something with it. And this is a time that we really have the power and we really have the community to really make that next step. So it is up to everybody in this room to make that next step, all of us together.
I'm just in awe of the diversity of people who are here, the distance some people have traveled to get here. And I will take about 3 minutes of your time. And if not, who asked about those whistles? They will blow them on me, so I'm going to be there, ready to blow the whistle. Notice I don't have a whistle. There's a reason for that. So when we held our first Transparency Camp in 2009, how many people were here in 2009? I know a few of you were. That's good. But it's even better that there are more of you who were not here in 2009. We were really, in 2009, very, very starry-eyed about the possibilities. We had a new administration who said they were going to raise the bar on how far they would go, how fast they would take the notion of government transparency, or as my colleagues at Tech President and Personal Democracy Forum like to call it, the government. There were lots of promises, there were lots of pronouncements. We thought we were going to be riding the train to transparency glory. We were hugely enthusiastic. Okay, it's some years later, and now we're all a bit more sober. The White House follow-through has been modest, but I don't want to just blame them. Honestly, I think we have all found this to be harder than we thought. Someone introduced themselves by saying, it's really difficult, or it's really complicated, and I think that's right. I think we all know now more how complicated it is than we did when we were a little bit more starry-eyed. So we have things like the White House visitor logs here in Washington, but they're hugely flawed. We've known that from the beginning. We have an open government directive, an open government mandate, which was great, except that it's not enforced, so that's not so great. We have an administration that is all for reforming campaign finance, including disclosure, except then they set up political committees in which they decided they're not going to disclose because it's not actually required. And the most recent issue that's come up has been the significant cuts that we face in the U.S. in terms of the e-government budget. And with many of you, you joined us Save the Data campaign, you did get some of that money restored, but that frankly was only the beginning of that fight, and we will be back to you for more help. So to quote Dickens, and I actually looked up the entire quote yesterday, everyone knows it is the best of times, it is the worst of times. It goes on to say, it is the age of wisdom, it is the age of foolishness, it was the season of light, and it was the season of darkness. But why I am actually encouraged, even in this season where we're not sure whether we're in light or darkness, is because I think we have the unbelievable creativity, the technological know-how, and the talent to do transparency to government itself. And while sunlight has grown dramatically in the last 5 years, by the way, this is the week of our 5th birthday. Matured and learned a lot and learned how difficult it is, so has this community. That's why I'm happy that there are not that many of you here today who were at our very first Transparency Camp. So the community is growing more rapidly than sunlight, and that's fabulous. So 5 years ago, there really was no open government movement. The people in this room may be the leading edge of that movement, but the concept of open government transparency is expanding exponentially. There's unbelievable progress in the U.S., in states and cities, and across the world in building a movement for transparency. You are representative of this diversity, at least part of this diversity, certainly geographically. We have people here from Utah to Croatia. In fact, I want to recognize, just stand up really quickly wherever you are, the 20 or so visitors we have from abroad. Many thanks to we have an incredible amount to learn from our visitors from abroad. And I know many of them will be doing sessions this afternoon, and I hope that people will attend those sessions. I've had a chance to meet and work with some of them, John Wonderleg, many of the Sunlight staff, and it is hugely impressive what is happening abroad. So thank you all for making this unbelievable trip for just a few days. So now is the time to stop and take stock of what our work is, what we're doing towards transparency of government itself. And whether it's here in the US or in India, Hungary, Brazil, Slovakia, or Jamaica, the issues are the same. Our challenge is to move from the idea phase into the action phase. So the goal of this camp is to talk about real change. We've worked hard to build an amazing community. Now let's work together to make transparent government a real reality. And one final word, I certainly have to thank the Sunlight staff who made this happen. And you've seen almost everyone here. Wave your hands, show your t-shirts. Again, if you have any questions, stop and check with them. But if it wasn't for Nicole Arrow, and Lauren Ellen, we definitely would not be here. So thank you guys, it's been amazing. It's organized by operations director, Scott Wells, and his operations assistant, Megan McKellar, unbelievable amounts of time. So thank you guys. And let us help you in any way we can to make these 2 days the best we can for you. We also wouldn't be here without the support of Microsoft, who has generously given us this wonderful space. And a special thanks to Patrick Svenberg and his team, who were here really late last night. So thanks to you guys. And to our other sponsors, O'Reilly Media and Google. Their support helped fund numerous scholarships that many of you are enjoying, that were enabled many of you to get here who normally would not have been able to afford it. So now it's your turn to take it away. Thanks.
We have chosen the intro sessions of each day of this camp to take the time to highlight the case studies that so many of us working out in various different parts of the transparent landscape are looking for. So I want to connect you with, today in particular, a few people who are working for open government issues on their state, or in their region, or in their city. We're going to be doing this again tomorrow. They're lightning talk formats, which means that very cruelly, I'm going to be advancing slides every 15 seconds. And these amazing people are going to be giving you a snapshot of the work that they do over the course of 5 minutes. Right, so today I'm going to introduce to you Jason Williams, seated right here. Jason is an advocate who's come all the way from Utah to be here today. Some of you might have heard about the action that's been going on in the Utah State Senate. Some of you will hear about it right now. Basically, Utah is the only state legislature that actually had a Freedom of Information law that it very promptly tried to get rid of recently. And Jason is one of a co-organizer of a large group of people, average citizens, who got together and went out there for the name of transparency. He's now part of a working group that's working with the legislature and a number of other bodies, both in and outside of the government, to kind of re-examine this legislation and see what they can do productively from there. I'm going to let Jason give another couple words about himself while I pull up his presentation, and then we're going to begin the talk. Jason?
I have to confess to cheating in the competition because I wanted to get a second chance to introduce myself. I have to confess, in the interest of transparency, to cheating during the competition because I knew I would get a second chance to introduce myself. I call myself a blogger. I'm an activist on many issues, state and nationally. I blog on the Sidetrack in Utah. Blog nationally, infrequently lately at Jerome Armstrong's Wendy. Some of you may recognize my name from there. I actually got my first project in the transparency advocacy world came from a grant from the Sunlight Foundation. In fact, I think Ellen was someone that I exchanged emails with as we explained the grant. We put together just an aggregation source for the state of Utah for the West. It's now defunct, but that was 2005, and that is where I first got my exposure to transparency. Since then, I've worked occasionally in that arena, but we've never had an issue in Utah until this year. And so let me explain the issue. Okay.
And Jason, when you talk, just talk loud.
Louder? All right.
All right, we gotta, sorry, you said here.
Can you raise volume on speakers?
Yes, all right. And we're
Okay.
done.
Late in the legislative session in Utah, a 45-day session, an unassuming bill titled General Changes in Government suddenly became, in the final 2 weeks of the session, House Bill 477, with the justification from lawmakers that this was a privacy issue. One lawmaker actually comparing the review process of his email to a violation of the Fourth Amendment. Another lawmaker saying, what if my wife texts me with an issue, wanting to meet me in for an afternoon delight? I don't want people knowing that. John Dougal, the sponsor of the bill, presented himself this way as a legislator for years. This is a comment on a blog from 2007. Made a big issue of this. The response from the public, remembering that, was, what happened? The conversation started on Twitter, literally that afternoon, people saying, where did this bill come from? It's just out of nowhere, popped up. A huge change. A Facebook page was set up within hours. By the following day, it had about 1,000. By the second day, about 2,000 likes. People responding to this change to the Open Records law. No one knew where it was coming from. So a rally was organized. One person set up a Facebook page, organized a rally, and it was huge. About 200 people showed up. Lawmakers responded with, the media's not telling you the whole story. You're only hearing half of this. So we asked, what's the whole story? This is what we got, literally. The explanations were all over the place. Lawmakers' privacy being invaded, citizens afraid to email their legislators for fear their medical records would be released to the public. All of this covered in our current government open records law, which has so far held up in every court challenge, protecting both privacy and openness. A good law, and they wanted to change it. So everyone's asking why still. Why are we changing this? The public rises up and starts doing their research. And this happens organically, no centralized organization whatsoever. They start researching the law. The Attorney General releases a handbook that was published in 2005. Everyone downloads it, reads it, and asks, why the change? Same response. You can see the look on his face as well as changing as this process plays out. From the smug first picture to the surprise. What we find out is that they want to take text messages, emails, and many forms of electronic communication and just across the board say they're private because of the medium that the communication is happening on, regardless of content. That's their justification. Governor threatens a veto because of the public reaction. Yet, strangely, on the following Monday, signs the bill after threatening a veto. There's talk of a recall, promises of a recall. No recall has happened yet. Governor signs it. Citizens respond with a citizens initiative petition. 2 hours into this, 700 online signatures and several hundred booklets printed and distributed, with the help of the media, of course, throughout the state. Signatures are gathered, beginning of gathering starts that afternoon, and I believe they were up to several hundred by that evening. Lawmakers, of course, watching and panicking. They hate these citizens' initiatives, and here they are looking at probably the first successful one. So they take care of that with a ban on electronic signatures. The public responds with, that's fine, we'll do it, paper. So they step it up. Again, still no central organization here. A few of us as big vocal mouthpieces for this, but no centralized organization. This rally right here, 300 people at the state capitol started with a Facebook comment on one Facebook page. 300 people, middle of the day on, I believe, a Tuesday. Lawmakers start to change their story. You start to hear senators saying, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we should rethink this. Maybe there should have been more of a discussion with the public. Staffers, Senate staffers, little bits of information leaking that staffers have told their lawmakers, or their legislators, don't do this without public discussion. Finally, another rally, about 200-300 people again, bringing the Tea Party, something never happens in Utah. The Tea Party, progressive organizations, general advocacy groups together, and they recall it. They vote for a recall, and we're told grandma was saved. And we find out there's a date on the recall. They're going to recall it, but this has to be resolved by July 1st. Again, plenty of opposition. Lawmakers finally give in, and they say, okay, no final date. They put together a working group. I'm part of it, the Attorney General's office, many representatives from around the state, and the goal of this working group is to give recommendations to the legislature for final review in a special session, which will result in either a change to grandma law or no changes whatsoever. So far, the working group, all of us, the consensus, no changes needed. We'll see what happens.
Thanks, Jason. And now, with slightly less technical difficulties, I'm going to welcome to the mic podium Wendy Norris. Wendy is also joining us from Western U.S. Let's give Wendy a round of applause. Wendy runs a watchdog blog network out for the Western U.S. She is also a Knight Fellow, and I'm going to let her tell you a story about her own successful transparency watchdogging. So that word a lot.
So this is a story about 4 bloggers and an investigation into a public-private toll road that rocked Colorado, changed state laws, and saved people's homes. Here we go. Pop quiz. I'll give you 5 seconds. What's missing in this picture?
Cars.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. Why doesn't anybody drive on this road? It was a really intriguing question that one of the bloggers that I was working with thought about. So here we come. We knew each other from Daily Post. We had just started a public policy blog together, but none of us were journalists. The group was a lawyer, a computer programmer, an environmental activist, and at the time, I was a social worker. We had never met, and we didn't even know each other's real names. 2 of the 4 of us lived in Colorado, but we were really intrigued by this question that was posed by one person in our group. Why doesn't anybody drive on this road? So our investigation culminated in a week-long series of posts. We requested the non-compete agreement between the E470 Toll Road Authority and the local communities. And we knew to ask for this because of earlier blogging that we had done on government privatization schemes. And it turned out to be a treasure trove of information. The non-compete clauses are designed to make the public road experience as miserable as possible to force people onto the toll road. It was created to protect the financial interests of the toll road investors. This is what we discovered. An onerous 15-year contract involving 4 cities and 2 counties. They were forced to lower their speed limits, they had to defer maintenance on their public roads, they had to add new stop signs, and they had to promise no new competing roads. The bottom line is that the cities were blackmailed into lending taxpayer dollars to shore up the road's shaky finances. They ponied up $20 million, but they were in the back of the line for repayment after the fiber investors. So our reporting actually energized the community groups that were fighting other toll road projects in Colorado. 1,000 people showed up at the state capitol to protest. And the laws were changed to protect landowners, and 2 new private public toll roads were backburnered. And so this was our roadmap. We requested specific documents. Don't go on a fishing expedition. Follow the law and be really nice to the public workers retrieving their info. They will actually help you. Be best friends with a librarian. Open records and open meeting laws can be really confusing. And the rules are really murky around public-private partnerships. If you're getting the runaround, call the State Press Association. They often have lawyers on retainer. Pay attention to the big picture. Focus on the biggest threat. Don't get stuck in the weeds, and use sidebars and not the body copy if you're blogging for the details. We actually wrote explainers on the complex parts like eminent domain law and linked back to those posts to keep the length manageable. And decide up front how you want to tell the story. Serialize it, visualize it, use video, mobile, social media. We decided to do an uninterrupted story arc. There were no other blog posts on our site other than this story so that we wouldn't risk breaking the momentum. And timing is everything. We lucked out. President Bush had just signed a federal highway bill with tons of money for private-public partnerships, so people knew what we were up against. And you can't express enough how much you need to engage in collective intelligence. Help each other out, copy edit, share documents, research, and assign somebody to be the internal naysayer for fact-checking and testing your theories. And as important as the story is itself, figure out a distribution strategy for getting this information into the community. Build a guest blogger network and cross-post this stuff everywhere. Reach out to like-minded folks. And also have a strategy for getting your investigation into the political realm. I got the Colorado House and Senate staff to add our blog to the daily news clips that were sent to lawmakers by just asking. And that really legitimized what we were working on because they knew us. And take a victory lap. It can feel uncomfortable sometimes, but promote your work everywhere and be generous with linking to other people. And put your work under Creative Commons licenses to distribute it far and wide. Thank you. And now you are a newly minted road star.
And now, our last person for these quick lightning talks. I'm going to introduce Noel Hidalgo, who until recently was with the New York State Senate, rocking innovation and technology.
Hello. So before the presentation starts, I've had a total of 8 hours over the last 2 nights. I just flew in this morning from San Francisco, so I need your collective energy. I really do, because I'm almost falling asleep. I've had too much coffee, so my body's awake, but my mind isn't. So what I'm going to ask for you is to say power to the people. And I want you to say it as loud as you possibly can, And so that way my mind can wake up and hopefully we can all collectively share the energy and I can absorb it and then give you some awesome talk. Is that cool? Yeah, all right. Great. So 1, 2, 3. Power to the people! Louder. 1, 2, 3. Power to the people! Thank you. Was that loud enough? Yeah. Okay, great. So now, yeah, okay.
You're going.
All right, I'm going. So for the last 2 years, I was the Director of Technology Innovation at the New York State Senate. We had a really cool operation that was put in place to kind of rethink what is the state legislature, or what is this technology within the state legislature. And our goal was to more or less collapse what's down here that's missing is New York and Albany, and how do we bring all these things together. And our goal was to essentially empower the Senate to inform the people. I mean, this is a state legislature which is notoriously known for its historical backward antics. This is a photo of the State House over 100 years ago. I'll wait for the next one. This one is a photo of the State Senate, also from 100 years ago. Ironically enough, within that time, not much has changed. When we got there, well, we were finding more or less what Andrew O'Shea has said, but steam-powered computers. On top of that, here are some of the news clippings. Here we're being called clowns. Here's a state senator who is accused of underpaying his staffers. Another one is found guilty of corruption. Another one actually cut up his girlfriend and was thrown in jail. Our website, it was a really static website. It says, hey, look, this is a website. Thank you for coming to our website. This was our content, or our constituent management system. Green screen terminals, you know, it was really user friendly. If you wanted to capture the email address, you actually had to enter that in the business line. There were only, like 10 different characters. So we wanted to reinvent the system by being collaborative, transparent, and participatory. So we first started off by building senators' websites that were fully engaged, totally 2.0'd, you know, carousel, and regardless whether you're the majority leader or you were the minority leader, which Jeffrey Klein started off his own little conference, you got the same website. The technology, web technology, was unified. It was homogenous in the sense that every single senator could be able to communicate with the people, regardless of whatever class that they were. Our Senate front page also kind of embodied that. It was diplomatic and it was participatory, where all content from across the Senate could come into it. So that put us on this kind of road so that way we would start using social media. We actually, one of the big things within the CIO's office is that we got them to tweet. So here, you know, we have Twitter and constituents going back and forth. This was unprecedented. I mean, this is a state legislature where people were like, yeah, you guys barely even show up to work, but here they were. We had one of our initiatives that we pioneered was called the Open Senate, where we used a number of different open source software programs to really think through how we were doing these things. From GitHub to Drupal to Simple Geo to Accelerator. We actually, I knew you guys were going to do a capital camp, but we did it first. And then we really thought through what were the different ways of how we can really get information to the people, and it was about opening up committees. We didn't want people to be traveling all the way up to Albany to sit through hour-long meetings. So we were like, okay, let's put this stuff up on YouTube. It's free. YouTube gives it to us for free as a government channel. So we wanted to take that opportunity. It wasn't going to cost us anything. So here are just some of the videos that we have. This one is an hour long with 9,000 views, 3 hours, 5,800 views. This one is 5 hours with 700 views. This one is 6 hours, 50 minutes, that had close to 7,000 views. 700 views. As you can see, caffeine is really kicking in now. So while we started doing these different types of social media engagement, what we found out what was missing is that we didn't have like a page that could go into initiatives. And so after a lot of crazy stuff, the Senate actually wanted to take up a really unique bill. It was for the bill that would allow for people to get married, marriage equality. We were going to actually promote this type of deliberation using livestream.com, which was a fairly simple and innovative service for us to be using. So we put it up there, and in the course of 4 hours, we had over 15,000 people watching us. So now that I'm gone from the Senate, the fight doesn't stop. It just changes a little bit. So in conjunction with PDF 2011, which I hope I'll see all of you at, we're going to do an unconference on May 5th. Take a look at June 5th. Right. Yeah. June 5th. Right. OpenGovNYC.org. That's where you'll find it out. And moral of the story is that winning is in the details, and don't fret, just do it.